Hi, I'm Carrie Vanston. I am the Ambassador's Officer for Association of Corporate Growth. I'm also a director and moderator of CEASAR. CEASAR is a corporate executives Austin San Antonio roundtable that ACG began last summer, 6 months ago. And we basically really wanted to have a place for growth-oriented C-suiters and business owners to land so that they would have their own group where they could kind of share and learn and move forward and support each other. So we have a roundtable once a month on the first Tuesday of the month with a speaker. And then on the third Tuesday of the month, we have a mastermind with a smaller group of people that have a little bit more chance to really get to know each other and to talk about and process their issues. Today, we'd like to thank our sponsors, which makes everything possible. Weaver, Dykema, Insperity, and Hire Better. We really do appreciate them. We couldn't do these kind of things if not for them. So thank you very much. Today, we have our speaker is Mason Arnold. He is the founder and Veggie nerd of CeCe's Veggie company. He will be talking about changing consumer trends during COVID. I'll introduce him a little bit more a little bit later. This session will be recorded, and the members of ACG get a list of with all the details, but everybody has a chance to put their information in the chat room so that we all have each other's contact information. Save the date for CEASAR Mastermind. We have that every third Tuesday, and this month it'll be February the 16th. Our agenda today is, first of all, we're doing the welcome part right now. Then everybody will have a chance to very briefly introduce themselves. We'll go around and everybody will get a chance to briefly introduce themselves. I'll introduce Mason, and then he will lead a conversation about consumer trends from COVID and other stuff. So let me first introduce Susan. Susan Vaughn is our executive is our executive vice president for ACG. No, yep. Are you still the
president-elect?
President-elect. I'm sorry. She is now the president-elect. Congratulations, Susan.
It all runs together, Carrie. No worries.
Thank you so much for coming, Susan. And please let us know a little bit about ACG.
Oh, glad to. Thank you all for being here. Mason, thank you especially for coming to talk to us. I love what Carrie's done in putting together the C-suite group, and even though there may not be a lot of faces on the screen, we're able to share these fantastic talks and get the word and the information out to others that weren't able to make it. So few things that are coming up at ACG that I want you to stay tuned for. Well, looking backwards, we had a healthcare M&A meeting on the 21st, and I myself missed that. Shame on me, but if you all missed it as well, I know it must have been great, and it is recorded and it is on our website, so check that out if you're interested in healthcare. We have an upcoming series on SPAC. That to me is going to be fascinating. There's a lot happening in that space and that kind of a transaction. It's going to be a series, I think 2 or 3 sessions, and so stay tuned for those dates. It's going to be a collaborative event with Silicon Valley, and another upcoming event is session 3 of the Texas Two-Step, which is sponsored by Dykema. Is that right? Sarah? Sponsored by Dykema. So those have been great conversations so far. Check those out. We just finished up with the Winter Summit, which was phenomenal. Had a lot of great meetings there across the nation. And Sarah, help me out. Am I forgetting anything?
I think you nailed it. We really appreciate everyone coming today. As Susan mentioned, we do record our sessions. So if you have missed anything, do what a lot of our members do. Go back to our website, look under the events tab, and you'll find the links to previous events.
Thanks, Sarah. Thank you, Carrie.
Sure. So I will begin the introductions. I'm Carrie Vanston. I am the CEO of the Alligator Wrangler. I help I help career professionals and business owners who are kind of up to their necks in alligators. I help them increase their energy and mindset and leadership levels so they can achieve their goals quicker and with less stress and more abundance. Charu, would you like to go next?
Hey guys, my name is Charu Pelanaker. Briefly at a high level, we practice in governance, risk, compliance, and information security, or cyber security, commonly used name now. We have two divisions. One is in OSEC, which is mainly in the consulting practice. It has been there for 5 years. We do have large clients too. We start with 10 million, 20 million to all the way $6 billion companies. And we have practiced over 5 years in various areas, mostly compliance and cybersecurity centric practice. We launched Secure Retain, which is our e-learning platform. We are going live from today. We started prepping for it 2 weeks ago. So mostly all 4 media channels, which we call it main, like a LinkedIn and YouTube is the main channels, and Instagram and Facebook as the supporting channels. We did a lot of work over a period of last 3 months to put together a lot of videos and graphics and demos and everything. So I'll share with you guys during the day today, tomorrow. This is a whole week campaign, well designed with the help of the experts in the field. So I may need your help to share it and talk to some people. So just expect and help me out here. Thank you.
Thank you, Charu. Christine?
Christine has put her.
I put mine in the.
Christine has put her intro into the chat function because she's sitting next to a student who's doing work virtually. So check that out there.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Christine. And how about you, Andy?
Sure. Hi, this is Andy Fogarasi. I'm a lifelong entrepreneur and background over at Texas A&M University in undergrad and University of Texas MBA. Been involved in quite a few companies, including a startup I did in 2005 when we built in e-commerce, where we built a lot of the components ourselves as opposed to the plugins of these modern days. In recent years, I sold my company, got to know my family a little bit over the last couple of years, and am now getting back involved with my company, Austin Beta, where I'm doing interim fractional COO, CFO, also involved in organizations like SKU, trying to learn and figure out what help a lot of these startups and growth companies need. And that's kind of the real trick right now, figuring out my story for of all my background, what really can help some of these startups and growth companies get to the next level.
Great. Thank you, Andy. Mm-hmm. And how about you, Edwin?
Hello, my name is Edwin De Angel. I am the CEO and founder of Invention Matters. At Invention Matters, we focus on intellectual property. My background is a long career as an electrical engineer, working for many of the semiconductor companies, Intel, Cirrus Logic, Qualcomm, NXP. But over the last 10 years, I have moved more towards licensing patents, monetizing patent portfolios, strategic positions for businesses where we can compare their patent portfolios with the ones of the competition. And we provide business intelligence into where they should put their money and what type of problems in technology they should focus on. And we also advise companies on M&A. When they are going to make a deal, we provide the comps that shows similar deals with similar technology, that type of intellectual property, how much is people in the street paying for.
Thanks, Edwin. Yave, is it Yave? Is that right? Javi.
Yes, I'm Javier Larsen. I'm a CFO and CEO of Naramu. It's a vegan ice cream company here in town that we're working to build into a dairy-free company with some new products pretty soon.
It's great.
Sorry, you cut out there. You run Naramu?
I'm CFO and CEO of Naramu.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I work with Daniel.
Me and Daniel go way back, yeah.
Yeah, no. I think we met once at a garage or something like that.
Yeah, I hear
Great place to meet.
especially if you're eating ice cream. David.
That requires being able to speak. Good afternoon, everybody. It is afternoon, isn't it? My name is David Turpin. I am a principal and co-founder of a small advisory group called Peleus. And we help people with fundamental issues about trying to go to the next level, get into business, get out of business, whatever the kind of questions they don't know quite how to ask. We will pose to them and have worked them through it. I'm also the owner of Manja Pizza Restaurant and Catering here in Austin, at least for a month or two. And I did go to A&M, but I went somewhere else for grad school, Andy.
Great, thank you. Susan?
Thanks, Carrie. I think I know almost all of you. I do know all of you, but I'm Susan Vaughn with Insperity. And as you know, Insperity is both a sponsor of ACG and we're a national outsourced HR solutions company. End-to-end, everything from payroll technology, employee benefits, culture, strategy, compliance, you name it. If it has to do with people, we can help.
Great. Sarah?
Hi, everyone. Good to see you again. I'm Sarah Singer. I'm the chapter executive for ACG Austin San Antonio. This is my 15th year of serving the chapter. And if there's anything you need to know, feel free to give me a call or send me an email.
Great. Thank you. So Mason and I go way back because I co-authored a book called Mini Trends about finding small trends that are going to become important opportunities. And Mason was perfect because he had started a company called Greenling about delivering grocery type items. And so we had him as a speaker at a couple of our conferences and events. And then later, when I started doing a lot of culture talks, I would use his culture at Greenling as kind of an example of how to really bring in humor to companies so that they could better engage with each other. And one of my favorite things was he was called the Cookie Monster. The CEO Cookie Monster, and everybody had funny names, and I just thought that was hysterical. And I put the whole list up and talk about that. And of course now he is the veggie nerd, so even more fun. Anyway, Mason founded CeCe's Veggie company in 2015. In 2019, CeCe's landed the #3 spot on the Inc. 5000 list of fastest growing private companies in the US. He just sold a little chunk of it, which he's going to tell us about, I think. Prior to that, he founded Earth Action Landscaping and Greenling. And he is also very active in the community. He is an avid mentor and has served on numerous nonprofit boards, including Sustainable Food Center. And he was crowned Eco Leader of the Year by Austin Business Journal in 2010. And he has been recognized with over 30 awards for achievement. So thank you so much for coming, Mason. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I figured maybe fill in a little more on the background, and then I can go into kind of what we are seeing out in the marketplace in terms of consumer trends. So I'm actually a native Austinite, born and raised here out in Dripping Springs off of Fitzhugh Road, and I just had the opportunity to go out there recently, and it is the mecca of alcohol now, which I wish it would have been when I was younger and living out there. But it's amazing to see the growth in my neck of the woods out there. I went to UT and I got a degree in chemical engineering, although I've always been an entrepreneur from middle school, candy empires to running side hustles in college. And right out of college, I went to work in the industry for the oil and chemical industry as an environmental consultant. We were helping companies file permits with the TCEQ, which was the environmental board here in Texas. It didn't take very long to instill a real deep passion for sustainability, because I was seeing firsthand what was being dumped into the environment outside of our cities. Everything from these oil and chemical companies to wastewater runoff from chicken farms and pig farms that were destroying ecosystems and drinking water for communities all around the state. So about 6 months into that job, two things came across my desk. One that showed organic residential fertilizers were better than synthetic fertilizers in every way you can imagine. long-term, short-term, greener lawn, healthier lawn, more bug resistance, everything. And then the article right after that said the #1 pollutant to Texas waterways is residential chemical fertilizer because people misuse it and put down too much, and it runs off and just wreaks havoc on rivers and lakes and streams. So I dug into why this could be the case. So you could have a dramatically inferior product that is dominating the marketplace, and it was all about marketing, branding, and marketing. And so that's where I started to really learn and become a student of branding and marketing. I also left my company pretty much right after those articles and started my first company, Earth Action Lawn and Landscaping, using organic fertilizers. After a couple of years, I learned that industry was not very prone to marketing and branding. It's very much a word of mouth industry, and that was the only way to grow the business. I wanted to do more fun things, so I sold that company. I actually moved to Spain to try to open a chain of restaurants over there. The landscaping company did well, so I thought I could do anything entrepreneurial, and didn't realize that becoming an international businessman was a whole different level. And so I lost all the money I had earned from selling the landscaping company, broke up, my girlfriend left me, and I contracted a parasite. So I ended up back in my mom's couch, broke, sick, and alone. And that was where Greenling was born. I decided whatever I was going to do in the future, I wanted it to try to help make the world a better place and be able to wake up in the morning and know that, to be able to know to myself that I'm helping to make a positive difference. So Greenling was grocery, home delivery focused on local and organic food. We were trying to rebuild local food systems and also highly curate food for health and wellness. And did that for 10 years, extremely difficult business model. It was a grocery store, an e-commerce store, and a logistics company, all three jammed into one back before we had all the wonderful technology solutions we have today for companies. So we had to create a lot of our own technology and implement that as well. Did that for 10 years. We saw Amazon coming, and so I actually have one day I'll probably frame a slide from a board meeting where I suggested we pivot into meal kits. We had launched meal kits 2 years before Blue Apron ever existed, and I thought that was going to be the future for kind of online food, that Amazon would come and kill grocery startups like what we had. We didn't account for Instacart and pushing the cost of delivery through apps down to people and their cars. We had a fleet of 27 trucks that we had to maintain. So competition got real tough real fast. We eventually successfully sold that company to a local competitor called Farmhouse, who's still operating. Sold that in 2015. And so along the way, I got pretty good at guessing which brands were going to make it and which ones weren't, based on price point, what I thought the trends were, and their product mix and their branding. So when I had line of sight to exit Greenling, I wanted to try out branded product. And so in my research, I thought that this veggie noodle thing might be a trend. Lots of allergen diets out there. I had to go gluten-free with my family about 3 years prior, and was always looking for things to feed the kids. I didn't think anyone had really done well with pasta, and even the ones that were pretty well were still highly processed. And so I leaned on my engineering background and actually invented the machine that we still use today to make the vegetable noodles. We're on like version 6 of it, and we have a bunch of other trade secrets as well for other things that we've done to modify machines for production of vegetable noodles. So hit the ground in 2015, and was a wonderful little rocket ship for a while. Earned us that #3 spot on the Inc. 5000 list in 2019, and then competition got really tough in the market as well. And what I ended up realizing was that we dominated vegetable noodles. Anywhere that other companies tried to get on the shelf next to us, by the time that we were nationally distributed in most major retailers, we could do it at a price point that no startup could really touch anymore. And then the big companies, it's still small enough of a category that people like Taylor Farms, which is a $5 billion produce company, they couldn't give it the attention in order to create a high quality product. So we could create a high quality product at the best price point, and so have dominated the industry for vegetable noodles. But what I learned is that our competition is really vegetable substitutes for traditional items. So if someone uses a cauliflower crust and makes a pizza, they feel less like they need to also have vegetable noodles as the side. Excuse me, let me take a drink of water. So it's been interesting to see the vegetable substitution kind of grand category grow all the way down to what I think is one of the worst examples is sweet potato toast, where they just slice sweet potato and call it toast and throw it in the freezer and call it toast. So there's been a proliferation of those kinds of products, and it's been fascinating to continue to watch that. And so most of my experience is in food. And so talking about consumer trends, food is at the forefront of the changes in trends kind of post COVID. And so a lot of it is around food, but I think it also reflects some larger changes as well. So just kind of running into what I'm seeing, obviously everything's going online. Online shopping is growing across all categories. Grocery is actually the #1 industry for that growth, with over 40%, some people say 50% growth in 2020, along with over-the-counter medicine, and then like household supplies and personal care products and stuff is part of that as well. But grocery has grown around 50% to 10.2% of the total grocery market, up from just 3.4% of the grocery market in 2019. So dramatic rise, and that's is seen to only continue, and it's expected to reach 25% of all groceries in just 4 short years from now in 2025. So really dramatic shock to the grocery industry, and retailers are kind of clamoring to make sure that they're providing the right kind of experience for that. And I believe I just saw this week that Amazon overtook HEB as the largest grocery seller in the country. And so that will continue on, and retailers will continue to struggle, as we see. An interesting thing within food and within grocery is there's been a real shock to loyalty, that 75% of consumers have tried new shopping behaviors and new brands in the last year. Some of it's because just different brands are available online, but it's also just kind of driven by the changes in consumer behavior that are happening, which I'll talk some more about that later. An interesting thing, essential categories like shampoos and soaps are seeing a move to either generic or high-end. Without the in-person buying experience, people either are just looking for better value, or they're actually exploring and finding products that align with their values and are shopping around sustainability or organics more so than they would before. Produce in particular, unfortunately for CeCe's Veggie Co. and the likes, produce shifted from short shelf life products like salads and prepared pre-chopped veggies and stuff to long shelf life products like potatoes and onions. So things that store really well just exploded during the pandemic, and things that did not store well actually contracted during the pandemic. And so value-added produce, which is the area that we're in, has had a slow recovery, and we're still not back to pre-pandemic numbers across our subset, but it is starting to get closer back towards normal. The other thing that is a caveat for our part of the industry is that short shelf life products and products like our vegetable noodles are very sensitive to temperature fluctuations. So whether it's being delivered in the freezing cold up north right now, or in the summertime when it's hot outside, products like zucchini noodles degrade very quickly. And so we're looking for other innovations, things like kohlrabi noodles, or things that stand up better to both the heat and the cold knowing that the shift to delivery is going to continue to grow. You know, we see a lot of consumers with health concerns more. And so immunity is a huge shift in consumer trend, and knowledge and understanding of what goes into immunity has absolutely exploded. CeCe's were launching a line of ready-to-eat meals in April in Sprouts farmers markets that are called wellness bowls. And 2 of them around immunity, and then the other 2 are heart health and other just kind of health concerns, where we add functional ingredients like turmeric and probiotics to these kinds of salads or heat and eat meals because of what we're seeing in the consumer trends moving towards health and wellness. It also means, so, you know, demand for these superfoods are going through the roof, and what has seen as, you know, just part of the spice industry are becoming commodities with volatile prices. So that has also not been great for us as the prices do become volatile, but it's a really interesting trend out there, functional ingredients and sourcing for that. Also for supplements, so supplements are taking off, that we're seeing, and that retailers are telling me, and it's a interesting one that also, because of the shift to online, I think provides a lot of opportunity in the consumer goods industry. Because if you can find the right source for a particular superfood or supplement and be able to sell them online, people can get into it with very little startup capital. Also, consumers, you know, of course, are cooking at home a lot more. What we saw in the trends is that while initially everyone was buying raw ingredients and cooking everything at home, people are definitely moving back towards wanting shortcuts. And so now, instead of you know, all their time is taken up by work and commuting with the, you know, the work from home that is expected to stay, it's now they actually do want to still spend time with their families, and their days filled up with Zoom calls, and so they don't have that, you know, hour to make their own lunch or the a ton of extra time, and some people just don't want to do it anymore. So we're seeing that's where value added produce, we're seeing to pick back up, and pre-chopped vegetables are back on the rise as people look for those shortcuts to be able to still cook a great meal, but not spend all the time working on it. So finding the right opportunities to help people cook easier and faster, I think, is a trend that's going to be here to stay. Also kind of fascinating, goes along with it, that I've with friends with other businesses, home improvements and technology around home theaters and workout equipment are all just absolutely going gangbusters. It's absolutely insane to see, you know, workout equipment with 6-month lead times because they just don't even have the commodities to make it and then ship it overseas. So it's been really fascinating to see the changes there. And a friend of mine has a high-end furniture store, and his business grew 10x right after the pandemic because people, had a lot more money, which I'll talk about in a little bit, but it means that people want their house to look better. And so people are buying expensive furniture when I would have expected during a pandemic, people to really be pinching pennies. So shifts like that have been really fascinating. Also, of course, out in the marketplace, low touch and touchless shopping, anywhere you go, drive-throughs, curbside pickup and stuff, that all seems to be really on the rise. And, you know, virtual reality is finally getting that kind of boost to make it a mainstream technology. And we got a set for Christmas, and it seems like everyone has been getting a set recently. So that's going to change a lot of the way a lot of things work. Something that I thought was really fascinating about the pandemic is how much Americans saved. So in 2020, American households saved an extra $1.3 trillion in 2020 compared to 2019. And so while the pandemic did cripple some parts of the economy, Most people don't think the economy actually contracted. It just kind of went on hold, and all that capital that would be flowing through the economy just went into the savings accounts of American households. And I think we'll create a real spending boom once people feel safe again. And so I really think we're gonna end up with a roaring 20s, just like the last century. Also, people have very low tolerance for errors, is what I'm hearing. People want it fast now and they need it right. And if a brand can't deliver that, then they'll move on to the next brand pretty easily. And branding in general is changing. Online experiences becoming more important, especially mobile experiences. There's some really interesting apps out there like Fetch for consumer goods. It's somewhat of a loyalty coupon type program, but it integrates online shopping as well as in-person shopping. And they're going absolutely gangbuster. And no brands can do demos right now, very few. And if they are, they're look and see demos instead of trial demos, which is what most of food has kind of relied on to drive trial within stores. So people are having to get a lot more creative about how to drive trial. Grocery list apps, which I've been hearing about since, Greenland back 2008, everyone was trying to figure out how to monetize grocery shopping list apps, and those seem to finally be coming to fruition, and they're able to monetize. And we're advertising on a couple of grocery apps because we're looking for these different technology ways to make up for demos and the prior marketing that we got to do. And so, mostly around food, but that is mostly what I have seen in the marketplace with CeCe's. And so I'd love to open it up for questions and chat and hear from y'all what you're hearing in your industries and see what's out there.
Mason, you had said a little bit of something about how you sold part of the company. You want to just mention that so that that's kind of on people's minds too?
Oh yeah. So it was a fascinating transaction that was a culmination of just a weird pandemic story. We were actually in talks, M&A talks before the pandemic hit, and we're very close to a deal that died because of the pandemic, not because of us or our performance, but the acquiring company got hit pretty hard by the pandemic. So then what we've been struggling with is getting more volume through our facility. We've been great at creating efficiencies and doing what we do, as well as products that we've added on in an extremely efficient way. So that left our facility with a lot of excess capacity. And so, driving up fixed costs on a per unit basis. So when the deal fell through, we started to figure out how can we move more volume to our facility. And I started calling people in the industry, asking if we could do any tolling for them or any co-packing. And we came across an organization who was busting at the seams. And so they did want to use our facility, but they wanted to own it. They wanted to be in control of their processes, which we totally understand. I didn't know how that would work out. But because we've had so much excess capacity, we have struggled to also penetrate into areas that are far away because of shipping as well. So the Northeast, we have very little presence in the Northeast because in order to make the product here and ship it all the way up there, it ends up being way too expensive for the market. But we can't fire up a co-packer in the Northeast when we have a plant that has a bunch of excess capacity. So we ended up selling the operations side of our business. We maintained our IP, our patents, and our trade secrets around what we do. And so we've maintained our IP that we can then show to other co-packers, but we sold the operations of the facility here in Austin. And we got to work immediately looking and evaluating co-packers on the West Coast and on the East Coast to be able to move that volume over there, which will increase freshness and decrease logistics, and so decrease the price all around on in markets that are far away from where we are. So we're still an independent company, but we're now more of a sales and marketing company with intellectual property.
Mason, I have a question. So if you use co-packers on the East and the West Coast, are you equipping them with your patented equipment, or how does that work?
Yeah, we have two key pieces of machinery that we have patents on, and so we in the facility now we own those machines, and we essentially do a zero lease to the co-packer. And as we move, if we move existing volume away or new volume, we can take some of those machines and move them to the new co-packers and have new ones built.
Okay. And the other question I had was, do you see trends like vertical farming or container farming, those sorts of things? Are those sources for you or not?
No, so our commodities are very much field grown. Squash grows extremely well in California, Central Valley, Mexico, all over, and they are heavy. And so a lot of heavy produce items are not well suited for container or vertical farming, where space is the premium, and they can be hard to harvest and such from those. So we haven't come across any. I know multiple companies like Bright Farms and such who are doing great things with container farms on roofs and such in the Northeast. Also, just from my, at this point, I've been in produce, I guess, for 15, 17 years. And Texas in particular is not well suited for vertical farming and container farming because of the heat and the sun. And once you block out the sun, then you have to replace the sun. But when the sun is so hot, once you have to start air conditioning your plants, then it becomes a pretty hard economic model.
Got it. That makes total sense. Thanks.
Mason, I have sort of a macro question, if I may. When I first bumped up against the food business while I was a corporate CFO, I came across the phrase, feed the rich, get poor, feed the poor, get rich. And much of the stuff that captures headlines, and a lot of it very valuable, all the people on this call probably use, is really, I would guess, segregated somewhat to a particular economic slice of the population, a significant one. But a lot of people simply, in aggregate in their household budget, can't afford the convenience items. They will do the work for in lieu of the convenience for certain kinds of food prep and other things. Is this simply an area that cannot be reached with the models that you're talking about? Or is there a way to penetrate those down market homes which simply don't have the extra $1 or $2 per item for the convenience when they have 3 kids running around and a minimal income?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. And I think there is a generational shift. Americans, as a percentage of their income, spend less on food than almost anyone in the world. And so that has been driven by convenience industry and commodities and putting corn and soy into everything. And so it begs the question whether that has been the right decision to spend less of our money on food than other developed countries. In terms of, I think you are right. There's a lot of, these super healthy and high-end food trends that are only accessible to the wealthy in America. It's a big enough market that you can still, make money off of it, as you say. But it is difficult to find ways to get those down to mainstream consumers. Where I believe the sweet spot is less processed, more nutritious food. So, Pirate's Booty throwing some dried kale onto their corn chips may sound healthy and appeal to lower income, but that, it's not actually that nutritious. But with advancements in storage and sanitation and transportation technology around whole and unprocessed foods, I do believe that we're starting to see better penetration and better price points for products moving downstream into mainstream households. And then it's just a matter of how do you help people understand how to prepare and eat that those raw commodities. Things like, organics within the produce industry, the price disparity has been dropping over time. And there's a lot of produce categories where organics are on par with conventional produce. And so you get that, higher end and in a lot of people would argue healthier food for a similar price point. And I see that trend continuing. Also generationally, it seems younger people are spending more on food of their income, whether it's because they have lower incomes or not is I guess a different talk. But it does seem that younger people being more educated on what products are healthy and what products are not are spending a bit more of their income. And so I think that trend will help as well. I am an optimist entrepreneur in the health food industry, so take it with a grain of salt.
Got it. Thank you.
Mason, Andy Fogarasi here. I've got a question for you based on your logistics and supply chain background, especially kind of with Farmhouse. And by the way, I know Stephanie over there. I met her years ago when she was at the Natural Gardener, bought plants there 10 plus years ago.
Oh, wow, awesome.
Yeah, it's a little bit of background. So here's my problem. I get some ideas in my head and business thoughts, and they kind of spin around in there until I figure out a reason why they won't work. And then I get really tormented when I come up with one that I can't figure out why it won't work and that it probably should. So here's a third model, and based on your background, I'm curious of your opinion on it. One, you've got the long supply chain model of e-commerce that Amazon provides, where you've got products sourcing from around the globe coming into a local Amazon center and then hopefully distributed to your place if you order it within a day or so, or it comes through their channel to get to you in a couple of days. Or you've got the kind of local to local distribution, point to point Instacart, where somebody goes to a local retailer instantly when you order, picks up some goodies and brings it out to your house. So you've got that direct one-to-one connection. But there seems to be a third model. When you look out here in the Austin area and you can envision all this incredible amount of inventory sitting in small retail shops that try to do e-commerce, try to do business, and the only option is to go point to point if you want something from them, or theoretically, you could have local distribution centers that aggregate orders from those places, collect the orders, in a day, and then distribute a whole box of all kinds of goodies to a local individual. So you kind of capitalize on the inventory sitting locally, but you use the distribution model to get it out there. So that one's been spinning in my head, and I can't figure out why no one's done that. You did a little bit of it at Farmhouse, but what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think a lot of people try to do that. And, one of my best guesses around it, or that is around this consumer expectation of speed and service and ease of use. And I think the technology in order to execute on that model is still pretty expensive. And so if someone can go to Amazon and get a similar product delivered same day, and it's just a little bit easier because they're already getting their groceries from Amazon, they're already getting these other things from it. That makes it hard to change that behavior and then have it become a habit. There's a really interesting one in town by Andrew Busey. He's doing Supply Drop. Have you seen that? No. So it's around things that we get every day. And the premise, I was like, what are you talking about? It's just like you get Amazon's subscribe and save. And they're like, yeah, what's the last thing you subscribed and saved? And how much did you save? And how easy was it to change or modify? And did they know when to drop it? And he asked all these questions. I was like, oh yeah, I guess it's a horrible experience actually. And so I think there's opportunity to pick off portions of the marketplace. I think if you try to do it all at once, then it becomes really hard because you're trying to compete directly against Amazon. Yeah, because all they do is Supply Drop is toilet paper, toothpaste, the things that you're going to consume on a regular basis. And they have algorithms that help predict when you're going to need it and send you a push notification like, hey, how you doing on toilet paper? And then they'll drop it and then they'll adjust the frequency after that as well. So I think if you can grab a particular portion of the market and start there, then maybe you end up being, you know, a competitor to Amazon. But I just think specialization is probably the way to go to get a foothold in, because otherwise Amazon is just going to crush you.
You'd have to start there for sure.
Yeah.
Christine has something that she's put in. I don't think she's able to talk right now. Trends I've been seeing: increasing importance of digital online presence, accurate, in parentheses, accurate / engaging presentation of different differentiators, custom experience, think unboxing, quality of packaging, other interaction touch points, and social good, positioning, community building.
Yeah, I think those are all great ones, and especially talking about the customer experience. Like when restaurants first, when you know everyone had to go to go. I've got some friends with restaurants in town, and I talked to one of them about what he was doing, and we talked about packaging, and he completely switched to his packaging provider, and because they make their tortillas fresh and they're delivering tacos. He's like, you can't deliver a fresh tortilla taco to someone's house and expect it to still be a whole taco by the time it gets there. So he figured out how to deliver them, you know, the fillings and the tortillas separately in different packaging, so that when the meal gets home, that it comes together as a quality meal. And I don't think nearly enough people are paying attention to that, the unboxing portion of it, and the experience of when the consumer actually gets that product. So hopefully more places pick up on that, because it can be really annoying.
Yeah, it's nothing like you spend a fortune for your to-go food and it's cold when it gets there.
Mason, can you comment a little bit into the machines, the patented technology that you did, and the model right now? Did you sell the machines or did you license the technology? And the second question is, where do you get the micro trends now during the pandemic?
So for the first question, we patented the machines. I mean, I invented them and had the patent. So for the co-pack agreement, the first co-pack agreement, since all the machines were already there and were required for the work, we did a $0 license. So we own the machines, they get to use them for free. For future co-pack agreements, we hope for that to actually be a revenue stream where there is a cost to licensing the machines and the IP from us. And so for you know, picking up on micro trends, it is harder, I think, to see them. We used to. Even in my Greenland days, I would go to the grocery store almost on a daily basis and look around, and you can tell things by how many facings something has. You can tell whether that's popular or not. Did they lose shelf space? Where, or do they have you know, end caps? And so you can learn a lot about trends from going and looking around, and you can't do that online anymore. So it's definitely harder and requires a whole lot more kind of informal conversations, I think. And then also, you know, I'm on the board of the National Produce Association called United Fresh, and we actually get quite a bit of data we have agreements with the consumer data companies through that. And so I've been lucky enough to continue to get data through there.
Thank you.
You guys can take yourself off of mute and just jump in, or if you want to raise your hand at some, you know, if you can't get a word in, feel free to do that. I have a question about, you know, how can we be, you know, I know that you feel really passionate about the sustainability part of it and that you work with a lot of organizations. What are you kind of seeing with trends there that maybe we as citizens can help, you know, be supportive of that sustainability?
Yeah, it's been, you know, the pandemic, knowing that portions of it were temporary was what made myself feel better about seeing the dramatic increase in plastic and disposable products and packaging early pandemic. And what I think though that it helped shepherd was, people like ourselves at CeCe's. I've been looking for sustainable packaging for a long time. We use, plastic for containers. And, finally was able to find our wellness bowls. We'll be launching them in spent agave fiber from tequila production. And then we hope to expand that to the rest of our products as well, fully compostable and recyclables, both. And so, those trends. And so when I go to pick up to-go food, especially like, Asian restaurants, they throw in all that extra stuff that ends up just going in the trash. And so even when I call in my order, I ask them to not include all the extras, that I have my own soy sauce and I don't need chopsticks. And so I think from a consumer perspective, because our experiences get reduced down to a phone call or online, putting in requests for things for, do you have sustainable packaging? Are you using compostable straws, or are they plastic straws? And so I think that's where we can have the biggest impact as consumers right now. And then hopefully as we pull out of the pandemic and we've got our long-term new normal, that, it'll more and more manufacturers will look to increase the sustainability components. And as groups like us launch sustainable packaging, then the price should come down, and hopefully more people will adopt them as the price of them comes down.
I hope so. It is
Mason, you said that without being able to do in-person tasting, you're having to pivot to other ways to get creative, to be in front of customers, to get them to try your product. Have you found anything that is better during the pandemic than something else? Have you tried several different things to see, what works, like coupons or, other areas? What have you thought?
Yeah, so this month in February, we'll be doing a campaign with Fetch. And so it's a combination of a coupon loyalty kind of app where people get points that then they can spend in other ways. And so other brands have seen really good success with that compared to just straight couponing, because Fetch, now that they have a lot of online stuff as well, people shop through that app. And so it might just be the latest, greatest one, but that one has been successful. And otherwise, it's been actually especially hard for a company like us that's food is perishable. There are things for other CPG companies like the ATX kits, and you have kind of these test kits with samples of different products, and we can't do that because everything needs to be refrigerated. So I think there will be a rise in those kinds of kits and sample boxes that go out, and maybe one day we'll be able to participate with a different product line that doesn't have to be refrigerated.
So Mason, what's your next big thing?
Well, one thing, actually this year going to be launching a kind of a podcast and YouTube series around going green, and we're going to call it mostly green, trying to be a more approachable and fun version of the eco warriors out there. We say we're going to be targeting the eco interested or the eco curious instead of the eco warriors. And so we'll do a podcast highlighting new technologies, and with my engineering background, I think we've got some fun content coming out for that. And that's to build an audience. And I'm working with university technology around chemical detection and pesticide detection that should be able to quantify chemicals in particular samples for much cheaper and much faster than is out there right now. So I'm really excited to work on this technology that is in validation right now and be able to test for things like allergens, heavy metals, and toxins in water and food in particular. And so hoping to launch that in, within a year or so. So working on that.
Mason, from a social impact kind of angle, to me, that the win will be when we're able to educate kids to the value of eating whole foods versus processed foods. And I'm just looking at your background, how fun that is, and it is almost reminiscent of that cartoon Veggie Tales, and so do you have anything going on in the background that helps to feed that education, or you have any vision of doing something like that?
We have we've wanted to be in produce. There's not a lot of access to kids. It ends up being through parents. Now we've released and we have a product available that we still want to bring back probably in the frozen aisle, but it was dinos and cheese. So it was vegetables, not processed. We invented a cutting system where we could cut vegetables into dinosaur shapes. And so we hope to launch kid products like that, we hope that moms will at least try and feed to their kids. We did some focus groups and kids were about 50-50 on it. If they are really just raised on Kraft mac and cheese, then they're going to think anything that's not Kraft mac and cheese tastes like, vegetables, which they don't want. But about half of the kids that we fed it to were like, this tastes great. And yeah, I would eat it instead of regular mac and cheese. And so we've just got to figure out what the right market and how to launch those. But primarily how we're currently trying to help educate kids is around finding products that help ease them into healthier eating and eating vegetables on a regular basis. And then hopefully as we turn into massive company, then we can do campaigns directed at kids and marketing.
Well, I love hearing that. I mean, it's a huge chore. And I think, until we're able to get in through schools and through educational institutions, it's going to be just kind of hit and miss. But yeah, thank you for the good work. I'm encouraged.
So just 2 quick cents on that too. I've got a 12-year-old daughter, and she talks a really good game about green foods and eating healthy. But when you put the macaroni and cheese next to the broccoli, yeah, the macaroni and cheese still wins. How do you get past that?
Yeah. That's a battle even in my everyday life. If I accidentally buy some cookies, and I'm going to end up eating cookies instead of my vegetables that day.
How old are your children, Mason?
They are 8 and 10.
And how does one accidentally buy cookies?
Yeah, once I figure that out, I'll let you know, but I just keep up with them.
Touche.
So, Mason, quick question. Probably, do you find like cities like Austin make a lot of difference in the areas when it comes to food or quality of the food compared to some other cities? Is it very regional approach when it comes to the food or some kind of food?
It's a good question, and I think there's a little bit of both. There's definitely regionality, and even when early on, zucchini noodles were just blowing up, and so we said, okay, let's see what other kinds of vegetables can we put into the package and sell different types of noodles. Once frozen came on board and took a big chunk of the market share, we could no longer justify having all these different varieties of noodles. But it was fascinating that in some areas, some noodles had sold extremely well. Some varieties of vegetables like beet noodles had little pockets, and some of them that you wouldn't necessarily expect. They sold well in the Midwest. And California, you'd kind of expect, and then Florida, I guess, is an analogy to California, where beet noodles did well, and then the rest of the U.S. it did very poorly. And the same would go for a couple of our sweet potato noodles, had weird pockets. So I think there's a lot of opportunity to regionalize products, and as you see with HEB has crazy products that you don't find anywhere else in the U.S. that do extremely well, because they've been able to really dial in with their customers on what products they need. But then once you go national, then it does become harder to put the right product in the right pocket.
Thank you. Thanks. I appreciate it. I guess I have to leave a little bit early. Need to join some other call where I'm speaking at some of the event. Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for joining.
Anyone else have a question?
Just
Yeah,
quick,
what time is dinner? I'm hungry.
you want to change your business and then stop the operating side of the business, or sell that side of the business? Is it because you want to focus on other things, or you were just kind of done with it? You made it grow and then you just want to keep the IP, or what made you just like want to stop operating the business?
It was really, I didn't want to stop. I loved our facility. We had a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into that facility, but we just didn't have enough volume. We built it for this huge volume, but then as we learned that we couldn't produce product and get it to the Northeast or get it to Northern California in a quality way, then, you know, we lost those accounts. And so then we didn't have the volume that we were expecting because we couldn't deliver it right. And so we made the decision in order to regionalize production, because with the fresh product, the opposite of frozen, we make everything to order and we put it on the truck the same day that it was ordered, and it goes straight to the DCs and then gets moved around to stores, so that a noodle that we make on Monday is usually on the shelf by Friday nationwide. And so that kind of tight turnaround just we learned is a very hard model to master on a one facility national scale. So we think our sweet spot is probably 3 facilities, one West Coast and one kind of Northeast.
So are you using them as co-packers, and then the sales are still going through your company? It's kind of like you just buy the turnkey product?
Yep. So we negotiate a finished goods product, but prices are volatile in produce. So there's some variability in the price we pay based on raw goods.
Got it. Cool. Thank you. So now your business is like ours. We use co-packers.
Yep.
Mason,
And the convenience store down the street from my house finally got a Nadamu little standalone cooler, so we get to have it on a regular basis.
Oh, nice.
Is the ones that in person, the ones that are in person, are you still doing pretty good business on those with COVID, or? Oh, well, I'm sorry. I'm thinking Nadamu. Suddenly started thinking Nadamu. That's a question for Have. How are your ice cream stores doing during COVID?
So we only have one store. It's just like we wanted to have like one flagship store next to our office as kind of like a place that people can identify with the brand, and R&D and marketing purposes. Our business is just to sell to retailers. Like the scoop shop was like 0.5% of our business, and now obviously it's not doing too well right now, but the parent company subsidizes it, and as long as we're not getting a lot of cash in there, like we're fine.
It's just a marketing store.
So right? R&D and marketing purpose for it. We're not planning on opening a bunch of stores nationwide or anything like that. Yeah.
Hi, Trent.
Mason, Javi shared with us last week, I think I know where his question came from. He shared with us a week or so ago that they've got their operations running so well at Nadamu that he's now bored at work. He's kind of sitting around with nothing to do, and he's like, what do I do next? So that was behind his question.
Nice.
Not quite like that, but yeah, a little bit.
Annie, did you have a question? No. Oh, okay.
Yeah, just a comment.
Hi, Trent. You want to give us just like a sentence or two? Just introduce yourself in a sentence or two, please, if you'd like. We're about to end, but if you want to just real quick.
Sure. I had to unmute. My name's Trent Davis. I've known Susan and Kelly y'all for a while, Javier as well. I am local from Austin. Financial services. My career had been at Alvarez and Marcel Consulting Company and had been in wealth management most of my life and reformed my own company about 30 days ago. So I've passed fractional CFO for some clients and am just excited to be on the call today. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions for Mason? Well, I guess we'll go ahead and close out. Thank you so much, Mason. That was so wonderful. We get some love for Mason. Yay.
Thanks for having me.
And we do have a mastermind coming up on the 16th. I hope maybe you might come, Mason. And everybody else, you're welcome to that. We always have a really good conversations in that. And
Mason, if I may, one last parting shot. Years ago, I was a banker and did a lot of business in Spain. Had a European base. Anybody trying to go to Spain and open a restaurant, hats off to them. I remember the story of a guy who opened a franchise, and the Spaniards eat lunch at 3 o'clock. So at 2 o'clock, nobody showed up. He started sending all the staff home, and then he realized the error of his ways. This was his first day in operation. Somebody didn't quite understand all the unwritten norms of trying to do business in a place like Spain.
Yeah, and unfortunately they were rather xenophobic. Mostly they just wanted to keep the Moors from Africa that were all coming, but it meant that it was really hard, even just in the formation process. And there were just a lot of hurdles that as a young and ambitious entrepreneur, I didn't learn about first.
One thing you may have run into, I once had to do a deal in Spain when I was a banker, and it required a document that required me and a lawyer to go to a consulate and have the consul read the Spanish language document at high speed. We all nodded, shook hands, he put the stamp on it, we're done. But that was kind of like the old Japanese, you got to put the chop on the computer cards from 40 years ago.
Yeah, there are some archaic systems.
Thank you very much. Very enlightening.
Yeah,
What
thanks.
part of Spain were you in, Mason?
Alicante on the Mediterranean coast.
On the coast.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
With the big castle on the hill.
isn't that where you were going to go, Andy, before COVID?
It's an area I know where. I was planning to travel that coast, yes. Definitely.
Yeah.
A lot of changes. Well, gosh, you gave us so many great insights about trends in the food industry. So it was really interesting. Maybe there's some mini trends in there that some of us grabbed onto to bring it back in the mini trends. So everybody, thank you. And Mason, thank you so much. And we will be videotaping this and sending it out, Mason. So I know we had a small group for you, but more people will see it. And we sure appreciate it. And we hope you come back for the roundtables and maybe even the masterminds. So thank you very much. Bye, everybody. Thank you for
Nice
coming.
meeting you, Mason. Thank you.
Great to meet y'all.
Thank you all.